I must tell you something that might completely shift how you understand the air signs. And I need you to hear this with full attention, because what I'm about to reveal goes against everything popular astrology has taught you about toughness, strength, and resilience in the zodiac. When people think of tough air signs, they immediately point to Gemini, the quick-witted twin who can verbally dismantle you in seconds, the adaptable chameleon who always lands on their feet, the intellectual warrior who weaponizes words with devastating precision. And yes, Gemini possesses a certain kind of toughness, a survival instinct trapped in charm and cleverness. But here's what I need you to understand. Gemini's toughness is reactive, situational, and ultimately temporary. It's the toughness of someone who dodges punches, not someone who fundamentally restructures the entire fight. The toughest air sign isn't Gemini, it's Aquarius. And if you've ever truly encountered Aquarius energy in its full expression, you already know exactly what I'm talking about. Have you noticed something lately? A strange exhaustion that doesn't come from physical tiredness but from something deeper. Something that feels like your soul has been working overtime. Have you felt an unexplainable tension in your chest, right at the heart center? As if something is trying to break through but hasn't quite emerged yet? If you're nodding right now, if you're feeling that recognition pulse through your body, then you're already tuned into the frequency I'm describing. You've already felt the Aquarian energy that's been intensifying in our collective consciousness. And your system is responding to it whether you consciously understand it or not. Let me be extremely clear about why this matters right now. At this specific moment in cosmic time, we are living through a period of unprecedented Aquarian activation. Not just because of Pluto's recent ingress into Aquarius, which will color the next 2 decades of human evolution, but because the very fabric of our collective reality is being rewired according to Aquarian principles. Truth over comfort, systems over personalities, future over tradition. And if you don't understand the nature of Aquarian toughness, you're going to find yourself completely unprepared for the transformations that are already underway. So what makes Aquarius the toughest air sign? Let me break down the architecture of this energy in a way that will make perfect sense. Because this isn't mysticism. This is strategic logic applied to psychological and energetic dynamics. First, we need to understand what toughness actually means in the context of air signs. Air signs operate in the realm of intellect, communication, social dynamics, and information exchange. Their battlefield is the mind. Their weapons are ideas. And their victories are measured in paradigm shifts and consciousness evolution. When we talk about toughness in air signs, we're not talking about physical endurance or emotional resilience in the way we might with earth or water signs. We're talking about mental fortitude, ideological integrity, and the ability to maintain clarity and purpose in the face of collective pressure to conform, to compromise, to collapse into consensus reality. Gemini's toughness manifests as adaptability. They survive by being flexible, by having multiple perspectives available at any moment, by never being pinned down to a single position. This is brilliant survival strategy, and it works exceptionally well in chaotic, rapidly changing environments. Gemini can talk their way out of almost anything, pivot when necessary, and use information as both shield and sword. But here's the critical distinction. Gemini's toughness is about personal survival and situational navigation. It's tactical, not strategic. It's about winning the immediate battle, not restructuring the entire war. Libra's toughness, oft uncompletely underestimated, manifests as diplomatic steel. Libra can endure incredible amounts of tension, holding space for opposing forces, maintaining equilibrium in situations that would break most people. Their toughness is relational and aesthetic. They can smile while carrying enormous psychological weight. They can negotiate peace while internally calculating every power dynamic in the room. But Libra's toughness is ultimately in service of harmony, balance, and relationship preservation. It's powerful, but it's not revolutionary. Aquarius operates on an entirely different frequency. Aquarius is a fixed air sign, and that fixity is everything. While Gemini flows and Libra balances, Aquarius stands. Aquarius holds a position not because it's comfortable or socially advantageous, but because it's true. And once Aquarius has locked onto a truth, onto a vision of how things should be, onto a principle that aligns with their understanding of universal law and human evolution, they become absolutely immovable. This is where people make their first critical mistake with Aquarius. They see the friendly exterior, the humanitarian concern, the intellectual openness, and they assume Aquarius is flexible, accommodating, easy to influence. They mistake Aquarius's willingness to hear all perspectives for agreement. They confuse Aquarius's detachment for indifference. And then, when they try to manipulate, control, or force Aquarius into compliance with systems or relationships that violate Aquarian principles, they discover something terrifying. Aquarius doesn't fight back in the way you expect. Aquarius doesn't argue, doesn't defend, doesn't engage in emotional warfare. Aquarius simply removes you from their reality with such completeness that it's as if you never existed. Does this resonate with you? Have you ever witnessed an Aquarius cut someone out of their life with such clinical precision that it left everyone around them stunned? Have you ever been on the receiving end of that Aquarian detachment and felt the absolute zero of their withdrawal? Let me explain the mechanism behind this, because understanding this will help you grasp why Aquarius is not just tough, but operating on a level of psychological and energetic mastery that most people never achieve. Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, the planet of sudden awakening, revolution, and liberation. Uranus energy is electric, disruptive, and fundamentally oriented toward breaking patterns that no longer serve evolution. But Aquarius is also traditionally ruled by Saturn, the planet of structure, discipline, and karmic law. This dual rulership creates a unique psychological architecture. Aquarius has both the revolutionary impulse to destroy outdated systems and the structural integrity to build new ones. This combination produces a form of toughness that is both destructive and constructive, both ruthless and principled. When Aquarius determines that a relationship, a system, or a belief structure is fundamentally misaligned with truth and evolutionary progress, they don't just leave, they completely restructure their reality to exclude that element, and they do it without guilt, without second guessing, without the emotional turmoil that would paralyze other signs. This isn't coldness, though it often looks like it from the outside. This is clarity. This is the ability to see beyond personal attachment to universal principle. Think about it this way. Gemini will argue with you, giving you multiple chances to see their perspective, adapting their approach until they find the angle that works. Libra will negotiate with you, seeking the middle ground, trying to preserve the relationship while addressing the conflict. But Aquarius will observe, analyze, determine whether you're aligned with their vision of truth and progress. And if you're not, they will simply architect you out of their life with such systematic thoroughness that there's no way back in. They don't slam doors, they redesign the entire building so there is no door to your relationship anymore. This is the toughness of someone who operates from principle rather than emotion, from vision rather than attachment, from future orientation rather than present comfort. And it's absolutely unshakable because it's not personal. When Aquarius cuts you off, it's not because they hate you or want to hurt you. It's because you represent a frequency that is incompatible with where they're going. And Aquarius is always moving toward the future they can see but others can't yet perceive. Let me take this deeper, because there's a layer to Aquarian toughness that most astrology content completely misses. And it's the most important layer of all. Aquarius doesn't just have personal toughness, they have collective toughness. They have the ability to stand alone against entire systems, entire cultures, entire paradigms of thought, and maintain their position without wavering. This is the energy of every revolutionary, every whistleblower, every person who has ever said this is wrong and I will not participate, even when everyone around them was complying. History is full of Aquarian energy expressing this exact quality. Think of people who stood against slavery when it was legal and socially acceptable. Think of scientists who maintained unpopular theories that later proved true. Think of activists who fought for rights that seemed impossible until they weren't. This is Aquarian toughness in action. The ability to see a truth that hasn't manifested yet and hold that vision with such unwavering commitment that reality eventually reorganizes around it. And here's what makes this particularly relevant right now. We are entering a period where this kind of toughness is not just admirable. It's essential. With Pluto in Aquarius for the next 20 years, we are going to witness the complete dismantling and reconstruction of every major system in human society. Government, economy, technology, education, healthcare. Nothing is going to remain as it is. And the people who will navigate this transformation most successfully are those who can embody Aquarian principles. Detachment from how things have always been, commitment to how things could be, and the mental and emotional toughness to stand in that vision even when the entire world is telling them they're wrong. If you have significant Aquarius placements in your chart, Sun, Moon, Rising, or a stellium in the 11th house, you are carrying this frequency as a core part of your soul's mission. And if you've been feeling exhausted lately, if you've been feeling that strange tension I mentioned at the beginning, it's because your system is being activated to step into this role more fully. You're being called to embody that Aquarian toughness, to stop compromising on your vision, to stop trying to make others comfortable with truths they're not ready to hear. But even if you don't have strong Aquarius in your natal chart, you need to understand this energy because you're going to encounter it more and more in the coming years. You're going to meet people who embody this frequency. You're going to be challenged to develop this quality in yourself, and you're going to have to make a choice. Are you going to resist the Aquarian revolution, clinging to familiar structures even as they crumble? Or are you going to align with it, developing the toughness to let go of what no longer serves and build something new? Let me give you a concrete example of how Aquarian toughness manifests differently than other forms of strength, because I want you to really feel the distinction. Imagine a toxic workplace where everyone is complaining about the conditions, but no one is willing to actually leave or challenge the system. A Gemini might cleverly navigate the politics, finding ways to make their situation more bearable through wit and adaptability. A Libra might try to mediate, bringing people together to discuss solutions, maintaining harmony even in dysfunction. But an Aquarius will analyze the system, determine it's fundamentally broken, and either completely restructure it from within if they have the power, or simply leave and build something better elsewhere. And they'll do it without drama, without lengthy explanations, without trying to convince everyone else to join them. They'll just go, and 6 months later, when their new venture is thriving and the old workplace has collapsed, people will finally understand what the Aquarius saw all along. This is the pattern that repeats across every area of life where Aquarius energy is strong. Relationships, careers, belief systems, social circles. Aquarius has the toughness to walk away from anything that doesn't align with their vision of how things should be, and they have the innovative capacity to create something better in its place. They don't just survive difficult situations, they transcend them by operating on a completely different level. Now let me address something that's going to make some of you uncomfortable. But it needs to be said because this is where the real power of Aquarian toughness reveals itself. Aquarius doesn't just have the strength to leave, they have the strength to not care about your reaction to them leaving. And this is where most people completely misunderstand what's happening. They interpret Aquarian detachment as cruelty, as coldness, as some kind of emotional deficiency. But what's actually happening is that Aquarius operates from a level of consciousness that transcends personal drama and emotional manipulation. Think about the last time someone tried to guilt trip you into staying in a situation that wasn't serving you. Think about the emotional pressure, the accusations of being selfish or uncaring, the attempts to make you responsible for other people's feelings. Most signs will buckle under this pressure to some degree. Even the strong ones will feel the weight of it, will question themselves, will wonder if maybe they are being too harsh or too rigid. But Aquarius has already run the calculation. They've already determined that the relationship or situation is misaligned with their path. And once that determination is made, no amount of emotional manipulation will change their mind, because they're not operating from emotion, they're operating from principle. This is what I mean when I say Aquarius has a different kind of toughness. It's not the toughness of enduring pain or pushing through difficulty. It's the toughness of absolute clarity. It's the ability to see through every manipulation tactic, every guilt trip, every attempt to pull them back into a dynamic that doesn't serve their evolution, and remain completely unmoved. Not because they don't care about people. Aquarius cares deeply about humanity as a whole, but because they understand something most people don't. You cannot help people by staying in misaligned relationships. You cannot serve the collective by sacrificing your own alignment. You cannot bring about positive change by compromising your vision to make others comfortable. Have you noticed this in your own life? Have you felt that pull between wanting to be kind, wanting to be understanding, wanting to maintain connection, and knowing deep in your soul that staying in certain situations is actually preventing your growth and your ability to contribute what you're here to contribute? That tension you're feeling is the call to develop Aquarian toughness. It's the invitation to stop prioritizing other people's comfort over your own alignment. Let me break down the 3 levels of Aquarian toughness, because understanding this structure will help you recognize it in yourself and others. And it will help you understand why Aquarius operates the way they do. The first level is intellectual toughness. This is the most visible layer and the one people usually recognize first. Aquarius has the mental fortitude to hold complex, unconventional ideas without needing external validation. They can think thoughts that make other people uncomfortable. They can see patterns that others miss. They can maintain logical consistency even when it leads to conclusions that challenge popular belief. This intellectual toughness means Aquarius doesn't need you to agree with them to know they're right. They've done the analysis. They've examined the evidence. They've tested their theories against reality, and if their conclusions differ from consensus opinion, that doesn't shake their confidence, it actually often confirms they're onto something important, because truth is rarely popular in its early stages. I want you to really sit with this for a moment, because it's so different from how most people operate. Most people need social validation for their ideas. They need other people to agree with them before they feel confident in their perspective. They modify their opinions based on social feedback, constantly adjusting to maintain acceptance and belonging. But Aquarius has the intellectual toughness to stand alone in their thinking. They can be the only person in the room with a particular perspective and feel absolutely solid in it. This doesn't mean they're closed-minded. Aquarius will genuinely consider new information and adjust their views if the evidence warrants it. But they won't change their mind just because everyone else disagrees. They won't abandon a truth just because it's unpopular. The second level is emotional toughness. And this is where things get really interesting, because Aquarian emotional toughness looks completely different from what most people expect. It's not about feeling deeply and pushing through the pain. It's not about emotional endurance or resilience in the traditional sense. Aquarian emotional toughness is about detachment, the ability to observe emotions without being controlled by them, to feel without being consumed, to care without being attached. This is the quality that makes Aquarius seem cold to people who don't understand it. When an Aquarius ends a relationship, they can do it with such calm clarity that it seems inhuman to those who are used to messy, emotional breakups. When an Aquarius cuts ties with a friend group or leaves a community, they can do it without the anguish and second guessing that would torture other signs for months. But this isn't because Aquarius doesn't feel. It's because Aquarius has developed the capacity to feel without letting those feelings override their clarity about what needs to happen. Let me give you a real example of this. I once knew an Aquarius son who had been in a friend group for over a decade. These were people she'd grown up with, shared countless experiences with, built what seemed like unbreakable bonds with. But over time, she began to notice that the group dynamic was becoming toxic. There was constant gossip, subtle competition, emotional manipulation disguised as care. She tried to address it directly, tried to shift the culture of the group, but nothing changed. So she made a decision. She stopped showing up. She didn't make a dramatic announcement. She didn't try to convince everyone else that the dynamic was unhealthy. She simply stopped participating. And when people reached out asking what was wrong, she was honest but brief. This dynamic doesn't align with who I'm becoming. And I need to move on. The friend group was devastated. They couldn't understand how she could just walk away from years of history. They accused her of being cold, of not valuing the relationships, of thinking she was better than them. And here's what's crucial. She felt all of that. She felt the sadness of losing those connections. She felt the discomfort of being misunderstood. She felt the social pressure to go back and smooth things over. But she also had the emotional toughness to feel all of that and still maintain her decision because she knew it was right. She didn't need them to understand. She didn't need them to approve. She didn't need to defend herself or prove that she was justified. She just moved forward. That's Aquarian unemotional toughness. It's not about not feeling, it's about not being controlled by feelings. It's about having the strength to honor your truth even when it hurts. Even when it's lonely. Even when everyone around you is telling you you're wrong. The third level is spiritual toughness. And this is the deepest and most powerful layer of Aquarian strength. This is the ability to maintain alignment with your soul's purpose even when the entire world is structured to pull you away from it. This is the capacity to serve the collective evolution even when it means personal sacrifice. This is the willingness to be misunderstood, rejected, isolated, and criticized because you can see a future that others can't yet perceive and you're committed to bringing it into being. This spiritual toughness is what allows Aquarius to be the revolutionary, the innovator, the one who breaks the mold and creates new paradigms. It's what allows them to stand against systems of oppression even when it's dangerous. It's what allows them to speak truth even when it costs them relationships, opportunities, and social standing. Because Aquarius understands something at a soul level that most people are still learning. Your life is not about personal comfort or social acceptance. Your life is about contributing to the evolution of consciousness. And sometimes that requires you to be the one who goes first, who stands alone, who holds the vision until others can see it too. Does this resonate with you? Can you feel the weight of this calling if you carry Aquarius energy? Can you sense the responsibility that comes with this level of toughness? Now, I need to address the shadow side of this toughness because nothing in astrology is purely positive. And understanding the shadow is essential for working with any energy consciously. The shadow of Aquarian toughness is disconnection. When taken to an extreme, that detachment can become dissociation. That intellectual clarity can become cold rationalization. That ability to cut people off can become a pattern of avoiding intimacy altogether. Some Aquarians use their toughness as a defense mechanism, keeping everyone at arm's length, never allowing themselves to be truly vulnerable because vulnerability feels like weakness. This is the trap that Aquarius must be aware of. True toughness isn't about never being affected. True toughness is about being able to be affected and still maintain your center. It's about being able to feel deeply and still think clearly. It's about being able to love fully and still honor your boundaries. The goal isn't to become so detached that nothing touches you. The goal is to develop such strong alignment with your truth that you can be touched by life without being knocked off course by it. I've seen Aquarians who have become so identified with their toughness that they've lost their humanity. They've become rigid, dogmatic, convinced that their way is the only way. They've used their intellectual superiority as a weapon to dismiss others rather than as a tool to uplift consciousness. They've confused detachment with superiority, isolation with enlightenment. And this is a profound misunderstanding of what Aquarian energy is actually here to do. Aquarius is here to serve the collective, not to separate from it. Aquarius is here to bring innovative solutions that benefit everyone, not just to prove how different and special they are. Aquarius is here to build bridges to the future, not to burn bridges to the past out of arrogance or fear. The toughness is meant to be in service of love for humanity, love for truth, love for the potential of what we can become together. So if you're working with Aquarius energy, either because it's prominent in your chart or because you're consciously developing these qualities, Here's what you need to understand. Your toughness is a gift, but it must be wielded with wisdom. You must be tough enough to stand alone when necessary, but humble enough to collaborate when possible. You must be detached enough to see clearly, but connected enough to care deeply. You must be revolutionary enough to challenge outdated systems, but responsible enough to help build what comes next. Let me tell you about the specific groups who are being called to embody this Aquarian toughness right now. Because this isn't random and it isn't universal. There are certain people who are carrying a particular frequency that makes them especially suited to anchor this energy during this transformative time. If you have your sun, moon, or rising in Aquarius, you are obviously a primary carrier of this frequency. But there are others who are being activated as well. If you have significant 11th house placements, you're being called to step into Aquarian leadership. The 11th house is the natural home of Aquarius, governing community, collective vision, and future orientation. If you have planets here, especially personal planets like the Sun, Moon, Mercury, or Venus, you're being asked to use your voice and your vision to help guide collective transformation. You're being given an unfair advantage right now because the cosmic weather is supporting exactly what you're here to do. If you're a fixed sign Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, you're being called to use your natural capacity for sustained focus and unwavering commitment to hold space for change. Fixed signs have the endurance to see things through, to maintain vision over long periods, to not give up when things get difficult. And right now, with Pluto in Aquarius, that fixed quality is being supercharged. You have the opportunity to anchor transformation in ways that will ripple out for decades. If you have Uranus strongly placed in your chart, especially if it's conjunct your Sun, Moon, or Ascendant, or if it's in your 1st or 10th house, you are a natural revolutionary. You came here to disrupt, to innovate, to break patterns, and right now, your Uranian energy is being activated at a level you may have never experienced before. You might be feeling restless, electric, like you can't stay in old structures anymore. That's not a problem, that's your assignment. You're being called to use that disruptive energy consciously, to channel it into creating new possibilities rather than just destroying what doesn't work. And if you're an air sign with water placements, particularly if you have Aquarius combined with Scorpio, Pisces, or Cancer energy, you have a unique gift right now. You have the Aquarian clarity and detachment combined with emotional depth and intuitive knowing. This combination allows you to see the truth and feel the impact seamlessly. You can hold space for transformation without losing your humanity. You can be revolutionary without being cold. This is an incredibly powerful frequency, and if you carry it, you're being called to bridge the gap between vision and compassion, between future and feeling, between what needs to change and how to help people through that change with grace. But here's what I really need you to understand, and this is where we get to the core of why Aquarian toughness matters so much right now. We are living in a time of collective awakening that is simultaneously exhilarating and terrifying. Old systems are collapsing. Truths that were hidden are being revealed. Power structures that seemed permanent are showing their fragility, and in the midst of all this chaos, there is enormous pressure to choose sides, to align with tribes, to find safety in group identity and collective belief systems. And this is exactly where Aquarian toughness becomes not just valuable but essential. Because Aquarius has the strength to stand outside of tribal thinking. Aquarius can observe multiple perspectives without being captured by any single ideology. Aquarius can see the truth in what one group is saying and the truth in what their opposition is saying, and can hold both truths simultaneously while also seeing the larger pattern that neither group can perceive because they're too identified with their position. This is not fence-sitting or wishy-washy, both sides is M. This is the capacity for meta-level thinking, for seeing the system itself rather than just your position within it. And right now, this capacity is desperately needed. We need people who are tough enough to refuse to be pulled into polarized thinking. We need people who are strong enough to say, I see what you're saying and I also see what they're saying. And I'm not going to collapse into either extreme because I can see a third option that neither of you have considered yet. We need people who have the intellectual and emotional fortitude to hold complexity, to resist the seductive simplicity of us versus them narratives, to maintain nuance in a world that is increasingly demanding that everyone pick a team and demonize the other side. This is Aquarian toughness in its highest expression. It's not about being contrarian for the sake of it. It's not about refusing to take a stand on important issues. It's about having the strength to take a stand based on principle rather than tribal loyalty, based on truth rather than social pressure, based on what serves collective evolution rather than what makes you feel safe and accepted in your chosen group. Let me be very specific about what this looks like in practice, because I want you to have concrete ways to recognize and develop this quality in yourself. Aquarian toughness means you can be in a room full of people who all agree on something. And if you see a flaw in their logic or a blind spot in their perspective, you have the courage to speak up even though you know it will make you unpopular. It means you can be part of a community or movement that you generally align with it. But when that community starts to exhibit the same toxic patterns it claims to oppose, you have the strength to call it out rather than staying silent to maintain your belonging. It means you can hold your political beliefs, your spiritual beliefs, your philosophical beliefs with conviction. But you're not so attached to being right that you can't update your understanding when new information emerges. It means you can admit when you were wrong without it destroying your sense of self. It means you can change your mind without feeling like you've betrayed yourself or your people. This is the flexibility within fixity that makes Aquarius so powerful. They're fixed in their commitment to truth, but flexible in their understanding of what truth looks like as it evolves. Have you developed this capacity in yourself? Can you hold your beliefs strongly while also holding them lightly? Can you be committed to your path while also being open to course corrections? Can you stand firm in your values while also being willing to examine whether your current expression of those values is actually serving them or contradicting them? Now let me address something that's going to challenge some of you. But it's crucial for understanding the full scope of Aquarian toughness. Aquarius is tough enough to be alone. Not just physically alone, but ideologically alone, spiritually alone, existentially alone. And this is perhaps the most difficult form of toughness to develop because humans are tribal creatures. We are wired for belonging. We are designed to seek approval and acceptance from our group. The fear of exile, of being cast out, of being rejected by the tribe, is one of the deepest fears in the human psyche because for most of human history, exile meant death. But Aquarius has the evolutionary capacity to override this programming. Aquarius can't survive and even thrive in exile because they're not getting their sense of identity and worth from external validation. They're getting it from alignment with their own truth, from their connection to universal principles, from their vision of what's possible. This doesn't mean Aquarius doesn't want connection or community. They do. Aquarius is actually deeply concerned with community and collective well-being. But they want authentic connection based on shared vision and values, not false connection based on conformity and compromise. This is why Aquarius will walk away from communities that require them to betray themselves to belong. This is why they'll choose isolation over integration if integration means losing their integrity. This is why they can be surrounded by people and still feel alone if those people don't share their frequency, and why they can be physically alone but feel completely connected if they're aligned with their purpose and their vision. And here's what's happening right now that makes this particularly relevant. As the old paradigm collapses and the new one emerges, there's going to be a period where the people who can see the new paradigm are going to feel very alone. They're going to be speaking a language that most people don't understand yet. They're going to be operating from principles that seem strange or threatening to those still invested in the old system. They're going to be building things that look crazy or impossible to conventional thinking. And they're going to need Aquarian toughness to sustain themselves through this period of being ahead of the curve, of being the weird ones, of being misunderstood and sometimes actively opposed. If you're one of these people, if you're already feeling this isolation, I need you to understand something. Your loneliness is not a sign that something is wrong with you. Your sense of being out of sync with the world around you is not evidence that you need to change yourself to fit in better. It's confirmation that you're tuned into a frequency that's emerging but hasn't fully landed yet. You're a pioneer. And pioneers are always lonely at first because they're going where no one has gone before. But they're not alone for long. Because once they've blazed the trail, others follow. This is the promise that comes with Aquarian toughness. Yes, you might have to stand alone for a while. Yes, you might have to endure misunderstanding and criticism. Yes, you might have to sacrifice comfort and acceptance. But you're not doing it for nothing. You're doing it because you can see something that matters. Something that will benefit not just you but everyone. And you have the strength to hold that vision until it becomes real. Let me give you the action plan now. Because understanding Aquarian toughness is valuable. But embodying it is what actually creates change. If you want to develop this quality in yourself, if you want to access this frequency more fully, here's what you need to do. First, stop seeking permission. Stop waiting for others to validate your vision before you act on it. Stop asking for approval before you make changes that you know in your soul are necessary. Aquarian toughness begins with self-authorization. You have to give yourself permission to see what you see, to know what you know, to trust your own clarity even when no one else can see it yet. This doesn't mean you become arrogant or closed to feedback. It means you stop outsourcing your authority to others. You stop letting other people's doubt become your doubt. You stop shrinking your vision to fit other people's limited imagination. Second, practice detachment as a daily discipline. This doesn't mean becoming cold or disconnected. It means developing the capacity to observe your emotions, your reactions without being controlled by them. When you feel the pull to stay in a situation because leaving would be uncomfortable, pause and ask yourself, am I staying because this truly serves my growth and my purpose? Or am I staying because I'm afraid of the discomfort of change? When you feel the urge to compromise your truth to maintain a relationship, pause and ask yourself, is this compromise actually creating more authentic connection? Or is it creating a false peace that will eventually collapse? Third, get comfortable with being misunderstood. This is huge. So much of what holds people back from embodying their truth is the fear of being misunderstood, misinterpreted, judged unfairly. But here's what Aquarius knows. You will be misunderstood. It's inevitable. When you're operating from a level of consciousness that others haven't reached yet, they literally cannot understand what you're doing or why you're doing it. They'll project their own fears and limitations onto you. They'll create stories about your motivations that have nothing to do with your actual intentions. And you have to be okay with that. You have to develop the toughness to let people be wrong about you without needing to correct them, without needing to defend yourself, without needing to make them see you accurately. Fourth, build your capacity for sustained vision. Aquarian toughness isn't just about making one bold move. It's about maintaining your direction over time. Through obstacles, through setbacks, through periods where nothing seems to be working. This requires practice. Start with small commitments to yourself and keep them even when it's inconvenient. Build the muscle of following through on what you say you're going to do, not because someone is watching or because you'll be rewarded, but because you said you wouldn't. Your word to yourself matters. This self-trust is the foundation of Aquarian toughness. Fifth, and this is critical. Learn to distinguish between healthy detachment and avoidant disconnection. Aquarian toughness is not about shutting down your heart or refusing to feel. It's about feeling fully while maintaining your center. It's about caring deeply while not being attached to outcomes. It's about loving without losing yourself. If you find yourself using detachment as a way to avoid intimacy, as a defense against being hurt, as a justification for not showing up fully in your relationships, that's not Aquarian toughness. That's fear wearing a spiritual mask. True Aquarian energy is incredibly loving, incredibly committed to the well-being of others. It just expresses that love through truth and vision rather than through emotional enmeshment and codependency. And finally, find your people. Yes, Aquarius can stand alone, but they're not meant to stay alone forever. You're meant to find the others who share your frequency, who can see what you see, who are building toward the same future. These connections might not look like traditional friendships or communities. They might be spread across the globe, connected through shared work rather than shared location. They might be few in number but profound in depth. But they exist. And part of your journey is to stop trying to force connection with people who aren't on your wavelength and instead trust that the right people will find you when you're fully embodying your truth. So let me bring this full circle and tell you why this matters so urgently right now. We are at a turning point in human consciousness. The next 20 years are going to determine the trajectory of human civilization for generations to come. The choices we make now, the systems we build now, the consciousness we embody now, will ripple forward in ways we can barely imagine. And we need people who have the toughness to hold the vision of what's possible even when everything around them is falling apart. We need people who can stand in the chaos and say, I know where we're going and I'm not going to be distracted by the noise. We need people who can be the calm in the storm, the clarity in the confusion, the unwavering commitment to truth in a world full of manipulation and deception. If you have Aquarius energy, if you've felt the call to develop this quality, if you've been experiencing that exhaustion and tension I described at the beginning, it's because you're being activated for this role. Your soul knew before you incarnated that you would be here during this time. You chose to carry this frequency because you knew it would be needed. And now the time has come to stop playing small, to stop hiding your light, to stop compromising your vision to make others comfortable. The toughest air sign isn't Gemini because Gemini's strength is in adaptation and survival. The toughest air sign is Aquarius because Aquarius's strength is in transformation and evolution. Aquarius doesn't just survive the storm. Aquarius becomes the lightning that illuminates the path forward. Aquarius doesn't just adapt to change. Aquarius initiates the change that everyone else will eventually follow. Aquarius doesn't just think differently. Aquarius thinks in ways that reshape how everyone else thinks. This is your time. This is your calling. And you have everything you need within you to answer it. The toughness you're being asked to embody isn't about becoming hard or cold. It's about becoming so aligned with truth that nothing can knock you off course. It's about becoming so clear in your vision that other people's doubt doesn't create doubt in you. It's about becoming so committed to the future you can see that you're willing to be uncomfortable in the present to